What is up, everybody? We are back ranking the newest transfer rumors of the week. Today, we're going to be starting with my favorite, the one that I think is the most interesting, and it is Marcus Rashford to Tottenham. And I think this would be an amazing signing. He's 28 years old. They could probably get him from anywhere to 30 million to 40 million euro fee. That's what the buy fee was for Barcelona. That was the buy-on clause in his loan. They're probably not going to trigger that now that they signed Anthony Gordon. So if Tottenham can get Marcus Rashford for around 40 million euros, I think it would be amazing business. 28 years old, 49 appearances for Barcelona this campaign, 14 goals, 11 assists, 8 goals, 7 assists in the league, a lot of those coming in as a substitute. I think he still has a lot left to give. He is fully in his prime. And he played really well in the Champions League this season for Barcelona. So, he's been playing at the highest level. And I feel like he has another 15 goal, like 5-7 assists per season in him for another 3-4 years in the Premier League. And I think Spurs really need wingers who can convert, wingers that can finish. The tells of the world aren't really finishing their chances. They're relying on Kolo Muani to play at right wing and left wing when he's really an out-and-out striker. They need players that can get on the end of things, that can create, but also putting the ball in the net in the winger position. And I think Marcus Rashford really can get that done. And his last stint in the Prem as well at Aston Villa, he played really well. We all remember that game against PSG. He was a standout. And I think with De Zerbi really has a good connection with attackers. As much as people don't like to talk about Mason Greenwood, he brought him over to Marseille and turned him into one of the best players in the league. And I think he could do the same if Marcus Rashford were to come back to the Prem and come to Tottenham. So I think this would be an amazing signing. Moving on next is Raphael Leão to Arsenal. I think that is a decent signing. Raphael Leão's 26 years old. It probably would cost you anywhere from 70 to 90 million euro. He had 31 appearances this season for AC Milan, 10 goals, 3 assists. It was one of his worst seasons so far. He usually gets around maybe 20, 25 goal contributions in the Serie A. This season, only 13. He has really great ball carrying capabilities, which we all know, and he's an amazing dribbler, which we all know. But he leaves a little bit to be desired when it comes to the finishing. He leaves a lot to be desired when it comes to his work rate, which is something that Mikel Arteta is not going to let you do. Didn't track back on defense once or twice, and he got benched for 10 games straight. So I don't see how he would work with the culture at Arsenal. And then also just the lack of finishing. Arsenal are looking for forwards now. They are fully locked in on getting a left wing and a backup striker, and they want someone in that winger position, not only that can get a lot of touches, which I think Raphael Leão can do, but they also want someone that can finish. And I feel like he's not really this elite ball striker, which is why it seems like Arsenal's leaning more towards Morgan Rogers, who's kind of more of an elite ball striker. We saw him score some outrageous goals this season. So I think it's a decent signing. I don't think you should spend 80 million euro if you're Arsenal on Raphael Leão. Moving on next is Gabriel Martinelli to PSG. 24 years old, 53 appearances for Arsenal this season, 11 goals, 7 assists, only 1 goal in the league. This was one of his worst seasons at Arsenal so far, and his last season wasn't much better. You have to go back 2-3 seasons to really see him perform at a pretty high level. But I think this would be a good signing for PSG because I think it makes sense. Again, youthful player. You could probably get him. Arsenal doesn't sell players the best, so they'll probably sell him for 50, 60 million euro. A player at 24 years old, you're going to probably lose someone from your front three. You're probably going to lose Kvaratskhelia or Barcola, probably Barcola. So this is someone that can come in, kind of expected to be a backup to Doué, Kvaratskhelia, and probably Dembele. And he could play all along that front three. I have a sneaky feeling that they might try to convert him to be a striker because there was moments where Martinelli played at striker for Arsenal and he played really, really well. So if not, I think he'll be able to play relatively well at left wing in League One, and I think he'll be able to stat pad a bit in League One, get his confidence up, and it'll really help for him to contribute in the Champions League, where you'd see him kind of dribble a little bit better back like what he was doing 2-3 years ago and finish a lot better like he was 2-3 years ago. So I think it'd be a good bit of business. Moving on next is Gonzalo Ramos to Atletico Madrid. I think this would also be a good signing. Gonzalo Ramos is 24 years old, 50 appearances this season for PSG, 13 goals, only 6 goals in the league. So he hasn't been amazing since he's gone to PSG, but he also really hasn't been given that much of an opportunity. A lot of the time, he's not been playing at all or just coming straight in off the bench. He's never really been able to get a string of games to really gain his form and gain his confidence since he's gone to PSG. But I think if he were to go to Atletico Madrid, it would really suit his skills. So he has an insane work rate. He works really hard. He'll press nonstop, and that is something that happens at Atletico Madrid. We all know how Diego Simeone is. And I think if you were to play for Atletico Madrid, you'd go up against a little bit less of low blocks. A lot of the times when Atletico Madrid's playing, they're playing their own mid block. If they're playing against Barcelona or Real Madrid, they're playing their own low block. And they are able to counter and play into space a lot more. And Gonzalo Ramos, if he has a lot more space to run into, is an amazing player. At Benfica, he had a lot more space to run into, and he was able to thrive. So I think if he's able to go to Atletico and get a run of games, play with a little bit more space, be able to run into the channels a lot better, it would really suit him, and I think he'd be able to score 20 goals in a season, maybe 15 goals in the league. So I think for him to go to Atletico for probably around 60 million euro, I think that'd be I think it'd be a good signing. Moving on, next is Krupi to PSG from Bournemouth. I think this would be an amazing signing. 19 years old, 35 appearances for Bournemouth this season, 13 goals. He in the beginning of the season wasn't always getting the minutes as well. He was coming in off the bench a lot of the time. He is just an amazing ball striker. Like, the way he strikes the ball almost reminds me of Thierry Henry in certain ways, where he uses defenders to strike the ball around. He angles his body perfectly. Every shot is with power, pace in the upper bins. I think it is just going to be a perfect signing. He's French. He gets to go back to League One. He's only 19, turning 20. He'll be able to probably slot in perfectly as a striker position, and then Dembele can play in off the wing like he used to and how he kind of prefers. So I think it's a really great signing. It's amazing if they're able to do it. It's going to cost a lot of money, probably 100 million euro, but if anyone can do it, we know PSG can afford it, and I think it would just make so much sense. Moving on, next is Karim Adeyemi from Dortmund to Aston Villa. I'm going to say don't do it. I don't like this signing. Do not do it. Adeyemi is 24 years old, 44 appearances this season for Dortmund, 10 goals, 8 assists. Not one of his best seasons. It seems like he's kind of regressing in the goal department. And for me, I don't love it because we saw something similar with Daniel Malen. They signed Daniel Malen from Dortmund, Aston Villa did, and they never even really gave him any minutes. They never gave him any string of games. He would come in and actually look pretty good for 20 minutes, and he would score. He'd score in the Europa League. He'd score in Europe and little cup games, but then they would never give him real minutes, in the Premier League, and they wouldn't let him play on the wing. They weren't going to bench Ollie Watkins for him. And I think, again, this is just a bit of, they think they can get him for cheap, and they're going to sell Morgan Rogers, and they need to replace him, and they don't want to spend all their money that they get from Morgan Rogers on one player. So they're going to sign 2 or 3 players that are slightly above average, like Adeyemi, and that just doesn't work. We've seen it at Aston Villa. Leon Bailey. We saw it with Daniel Malen. We saw it with Gessend. All these players you sign for a cut rate fee, and they're just average or slightly above average players, and they do not make it in the team, and then you have to get rid of them. We saw it with Diaby as well. I think they're better off not signing him because he's not an amazing finisher. He's not going to finish a lot of chances that you give him, and I think when that happens, Unai Emery just is going to end up benching him. And he's just going to turn into another Daniel Malen. I think it's a don't do it for not only for Karim Adeyemi, but I think it's a don't do it for Aston Villa as well. Moving on is Sidney Cabral from Benfica to Trabzonspor. I think it's a decent signing. Sidney Cabral is 23 years old. He had 12 appearances for Benfica, 1 goal, 2 assists. In the same season, because he came in January, he played for Estrela da Amadora, and he had about 16 appearances, 5 goals, 3 assists for them, also in the Portuguese league. I think he's a great player, and he's really, really good on his left foot. He's really, really good on his right foot. He was playing more as like a right wing back for Estrela de Amadora when he had 5 goals, 3 assists, and was doing really well. When he went to Benfica, Jose Mourinho would refuse to play him as a left back or right back, saying he was too small. Even though Benfica's left back is Samuel Dahl, who is pretty small himself. So he refused to play him at left back or right back, which I think is where he thrives and should play, because he's not amazing offensively, but he is above average. But he is also above average defensively. He's perfectly as a wing back. If you have to play him as a traditional right back or left back, I think he's obviously good there as well, preferably to him playing right wing or left wing. He was played at right wing and left wing for Benfica, and he just lacks a little bit to be desired going forward to really fully beat his man consistently. But they also just didn't really give him the minutes. So I didn't understand why Benfica wanted him if they weren't going to play him. I think it's decent because I just don't think he should go to Trabzonspor. I think this is a good enough player to go to somebody like Braga, stay in the Portuguese league, or maybe even Fenerbahce. This is a player that's 23, and when he was playing for a pretty bad team in Portugal, when he was playing his preferred role at right wing back, he was getting 8 goals and assists total in 16 appearances, a goal or an assist every other game. I think he should try to move somewhere else, but if he goes to Trabzonspor, I think he'll be a decent signing and probably be able to move somewhere afterwards. Moving on next is Fabio Vieira from Arsenal to Hamburg. He was just there on loan, 26 years old, 31 appearances for Hamburg this season, 7 goals, 5 assists. I think this is a good signing, and he's obviously performed well there this year, and he seems like he has no way back into the Arsenal team, even though I think he would do great at Arsenal, and he's an elite ball striker, and he has decent vision as well for a pass. I don't know why he can't get any minutes at Arsenal, but if he were to go to Hamburg, I think this would be a good signing. I think they're going to want to try and get him for a cut rate fee around 20 million euro, but really, really good. He's understood what he needs to do at the club, has been pretty reliable for them, played a majority of the games. I still think he should probably go back to Portugal, go to a team like Sporting, go back to his home team of Porto and play there, because he went on loan there and he did relatively well as well. I think he should try to play at that level because he is of that level. Go play for a team that's playing in the Champions League and you can go compete, because Porto, as much as they won the league this year pretty easily, they could always use another midfielder, and Fabio Vieira, with the experience already there, would be a really good addition. But if he goes to Hamburg, I think it's good. And finally is Sandro Tonali from Newcastle to Manchester United. And I think this would be an amazing signing. He's 26 years old, 3 seasons at Newcastle, probably his best season in terms of individuality this year. He played 52 games. He doesn't miss many games unless it's due to gambling. He has such an insane work ethic. He has Champions League experience, quality on the ball. He is a perfect 8. If they are able to play him as an 8, Bruno Fernandes as a 10, Ederson as the 6, the holding 6, and then Tonali as an 8, the midfield would be such a strong midfield. It'd be so hard to overrun them with Tonali in that midfield. And I think between him and Bruno Guimaraes, someone's going to leave, and I think it's going to be Tonali. It just makes more sense if Tonali leaves. And I think he would be able to dominate the midfield for Manchester United, and he's already has Premier League experience. He slots in perfectly, as he could sit back a little bit more if you want to really have a double holding midfield pair of Ederson and Tonali, or if you're willing to just let Ederson be the sole 6 and kind of Tonali bombing up and down and Bruno Fernandes, them kind of as dual 8s, or maybe Bruno Fernandes a little more as a 10, Tonali a little bit more as an 8, just kind of a box crashing midfielder. It would be amazing. I think they would really, really do well. And again, they're going to need more depth because of them qualifying for the Champions League. So I think it would be one of the best signings of the summer. So this is all of the hottest transfer rumors of the week so far. Let me know what you guys think. I really love the Marcus Rashford going to Tottenham. So let me know what you guys think about that. Thank you.